and welcome to Long's Toys. Today we are taking a look at Deluxe Class Nightbird from Transformers War for Cybertron Trilogy Generation Selects. Still just makes me think of chicken fingers at McDonald's. Anyway, these are like online exclusives done by Hasbro for various things. I was also hoping to review Zetar, the Power Dasher. I pre-ordered one of each on Hasbro Pulse, and they sent me 2 Nightbirds. So I had to contact them, and I'm waiting to hear back, hoping that they send me out a Zetar. But for now, we'll take a look at Nightbird, because that's the one that I have. So very standard, like, cardboard packaging that we've been seeing for these. Lancer was the same way. Red Wing was the same way. Just very basic. I still think back to when the lady at Target told me she thought it was a box of shoes. Because it's true, it does kind of look like a shoebox. There's not really much going on with the packaging. But if you open it up, you can see inside. Let me angle the camera up. It's kind of hard to see because there's no light. But I could actually just lift the tray out. That will work. There's Nightbird. And then here's her instruction sheet. So as you can probably tell, she is a repaint slash remold of Chromia, which is kind of a repaint slash remold of the Moonracer mold. But this is the one that has the Gestalt Combiner Wars piece taken out. So this is definitely Chromia from War for Cybertron. Siege. There you go. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get her out of the packaging here, and we'll take a closer look. So here is Nightbird out of the packaging. And I will say that I think she looks great. I think they did a really nice job with the color scheme and the paint. I think the head sculpt looks great. Very accurate to the cartoon. And overall, I think, honestly, the robot mode looks like the cartoon. Obviously, she has some kibble here that the cartoon didn't have. But overall, just looking at it from the front, again, don't look at the kibble for the transformation, but I think it actually does a good job of looking like Nightbird from the cartoon. If we take a close-up look at the head sculpt, again, I think they really nailed that. Nice paint. I mean, it's a fairly simple sculpt, but it really looks good. Her head is like weirdly on a ball joint. And it can really move all around. It's not loose so much. It's just, I guess it's because it's like attached all the way at the back of her head. Which, I mean, yeah, that's how necks work. But it's just weird. I don't know. I guess I'm not used to it for a Transformer. But it's a little silly. But I really do think they did a good job with the head. So there's the ball joint there. You have out to the side and spin forward for the shoulder. Bicep swivel 90 degrees in the elbow. The wrist goes in for the transformation so it doesn't spin or anything like that. Waist does have... I know, you know, it spins for the transformation, but because of how everything connects, it can't spin in robot mode. But it has a ball joint in the hip, and then you have a thigh swivel underneath that. You have... I want to say you have 90 degrees, but you'd have to move this back. Yeah. So, let me zoom out a little bit here. You can get that in the knee there, but you'd have to move this just a smidge. And then you have swivel in the ankle as well as a tilt. So you could do like a wider stance if you like. I will say that it does feel like the hips are slightly loose. Not terrible. But I don't know, for some reason, I honestly think it's just because this makes her so back heavy that she naturally kind of wants to fall over. But you can get poses where she doesn't. I mean, it's not a problem. I just think because she's so back heavy and the hips feel slightly looser than they should, it makes her want to fall over. But overall, I like the look of her. I really like the robot mode. I think it's very evoking of the animated design. The head sculpt looks great. The color scheme is fantastic. I love purple and black together. The gunmetal gray just kind of accents those colors, but I always think black and purple look really cool together. It's just a nice color palette. She does come with some accessories. Tiny little gun. And then she's got these pieces here And you can see there's already kind of a ton of stress marks. Let me get in a little bit closer here. So you can see there's stress marks there, there. I don't know what it is about Siege, but I have noticed, you can see really bad on that one, stuff gets stress marks fairly easily just from transforming normally. It's kind of a problem. So you're supposed to peg these in together, and sometimes they stay and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they kind of pop out. And I think it's because if you look at how this is supposed to be, you know, it's a hexagon which should accept the pin, but the pin's a little oblong. It's not a perfect circle. So I think depending on how you insert it, sometimes it sits a little bit easier. See, like if I try to spin it like that, see how like you push it in and it pops out immediately? It's not great. It's something that should not be difficult to mess up. But you can go ahead and put these all together. But again, look at the stress marks there. Look at that. And it's just because it's not molded right. It's like, I don't know how to describe it. Yeah, it's really kind of a shame because there's no reason it should be this difficult, or there shouldn't be this much stress put on it. And sometimes if you switch them around, you can find some that fit a little bit better. I mean, overall, it's still a gun. You can use the extenders or you don't have to. It also shows like making kind of like a riot stick by just putting these all together, which you can do if you like. You know, there's a little bit of playability there. It's just kind of sad, honestly, that, like, honestly, I think this little gun by itself looks fine. These things are just, I mean, look at all those stress marks. That's really a bummer. There's really no reason that it needs to be engineered so poorly when it's a very simple thing as a, you know, peg hole and a peg. It shouldn't be that difficult. But anyway, putting the weapon aside, let's go ahead and get into the transformation. Very simple, not very difficult at all. You can go ahead and just push the feet back like that, and then spin this around. Not quite 180 degrees because it hits before it can go fully 180 degrees, but just kind of spin it back around like that. Going to come around to the back here. You're going to unpeg these pieces from the side, and as you do that, then this can lift up. You can kind of leave them down like that. There's a little piece underneath here that flips out like that. You're going to bring this down all the way, and then you're going to lift these up, and there is, and it's going to be hard to see with everything being black, there's a little tab there, and I believe there's a tab, yeah, right there, and that just kind of lifts up and tabs into here, so these just kind of both go underneath. And it's surprisingly more difficult than you would think, and it's because you need to make sure the toes get underneath the hood of the car there. Once you do that, it usually goes in pretty easy. Just make sure it's lined up, but there you go. So the whole front of the car snaps together. You're pretty much done at this point. You're going to come up here. You're going to spin this around 180. She's got this weird kind of crotch plate that just like rotates for no reason. So just be a little wary of that. I don't think it's going to break off or anything, but sometimes when I'm trying to transform it, I find myself kind of like pressing on it and it moves a lot and it kind of throws me. So take the head, spin it around 180 degrees, and then you want to just lightly bring this around and just kind of push it till you hit resistance. Don't force it in. I had this problem with Chromia. Her head's more rounded, so it shouldn't be as big of a deal, but Chromia had the big kind of square crown, and that got stuck in this hole. So you just want to kind of be careful. Just push it in until it kind of naturally stops. At this point, you can pull the arms up like this. These pieces will close around very simply like that. And then you just bring these down. They peg into the side. And then the fist folds up like that. So bring this part down, fold that up. And there you go. You have the vehicle mode. I like it. I've always thought Chromia's was pretty neat. When they take the Combiner Wars piece out, I feel like they streamlined it a little bit and made it kind of sleek. And I'm kind of glad they used this version for Nightbird instead of the Combiner Wars version of this mold. Like I said, I think the black and the purple work really well together. Now you're supposed to be able to take these, and you see these two tabs right there. You're supposed to be able, not tabs, pegs. You're supposed to be able to peg these on here, and one of them's kind of fine, and the other one does that same thing where I kind of try to push it on, and it just pops right off because it does not want to peg on correctly. It's really weird. It just really, like, no matter how I do it, it does not want to stay on. So you're supposed to be able to peg these on and have them just kind of hang out there as somewhere to store them, so it kind of looks like exhaust ports. But because that one doesn't really work, and like no matter what I do, it will not stay on. It just immediately flings itself back off because the peg is not done right. It just will not stay. So I can kind of get it to stay if I turn them like that. But the directions have the tabs pointing up. Ultimately, I guess it doesn't matter. But it still looks a little weird. In any case, you can then peg the gun here if you want. You could technically peg it up here if you want. Doesn't matter. Obviously, you can also use any Weapon Masters. No, I always say this wrong. Battle Masters or Weaponizers. You have ports here, port there, ports in the front. So any little guys you want to equip around should be no problem. I like to just put this gun in here. And see, again, that weird crotch thing. I always feel like I end up flicking it by accident. I'm afraid it's going to break off eventually, but there you go. There is the car mode with the weapons fully equipped on there. I feel like it doesn't roll all that well. I mean, it's not terrible, but it just seems like it's a little off center, off balance. Not quite sure why. Oh, there we go. Didn't have the one leg pushed in enough. Rolls a little bit better now. So yeah, there you go. There's the vehicle mode. Ultimately, I think it looks sleek, and I do love the color scheme for it. So ultimately, I think Nightbird looks pretty good. I always think it's funny that for whatever reason they keep going back to Nightbird when it comes to, you know, making a remold or a random kind of fringe figure like these selects tend to be. They're always going back to Nightbird. I mean, she's in one episode of the season 3 G1 episode, but they love her. I will say, I think the robot mode, they did a great job. I think it definitely looks like Nightbird from the cartoon. I think the head sculpt is fantastic. I like the vehicle mode. I love the color scheme. Transformation's not too difficult or anything like that, so I do like her a lot. Really, my only problem with her is the accessories, the gun. These little pod things, they don't work. They get all stressed out with the stress marks. It's just a bummer. But I mean, if you think about it, she was supposed to be like a martial arts robot, so she doesn't really need a gun. She should have come with a sword instead, because didn't she have a sword in the episode, if I'm remembering correctly? Would have been better to have a sword, in my opinion. I understand Chromia came with the weird gun, but I feel like you have a sword from Bludgeon or Windblade or somebody that you could probably take and give her, just to give her a blade. Or, and this would have been really neat, maybe mold one of her hands into like a karate pose or something. You know, she doesn't, yes, it wouldn't be able to hold a weapon in that hand, but it would have been neat to have like maybe this hand hold a sword, and then like maybe this hand doing some kind of like, you know, pose. Because if I'm remembering correctly, she was a martial arts robot, so I don't really need her to have guns. I think it would have been neater to, instead of just including Chromia's gun, I think it would have been neater, you know, to just tailor her a little bit more to what you're going for. But ultimately, like, hold on, do I have, just for fun, do I have a little, here we go. This is not going to scale at all. I have a katana from Lego Ninjago. Okay, but just to give you an idea, obviously a bigger sword would be cooler, but okay, she's got a sword, and then mold this hand into like a, you know, some kind of cool karate fist pose or something. I don't know martial arts. In any case, Something like that I think would have been better than just packing in, you know, a repainted version of Chromia's gun that just doesn't work. I don't know. I didn't have any problems with Chromia's little pods. I don't know why this one has so many problems. But this is what I want. I think it would have been much better. I'm going to have to just find a sword from some other figure, whether it's Transformers or some other action figure line, and just hook her up, because I think that's so much cooler. I think a sword would have been much better, or some kind of martial arts stance. You know, just get creative with it. It's a selects figure. It doesn't have to appeal to the masses. That's the whole point of it. Be willing to take a little risk. Give us something out of the ordinary. But in any case, it's a cool figure. I think it looks like Nightbird. I love the color scheme. I think the robot mode looks good. Transformation's good. Vehicle mode looks good. So I would give it like a 90% out of 100 is pretty cool. It's just the weapon that I don't care for. I would have much rather had a sword over a gun. But that's it. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. And as always, thank you so much for watching.